So welcome to our final session of tuning into winter. We've looked at resetting, re-energizing, at resting, and then our final week, reflecting. It took a lot of cogs then to remember all the R's without the words up in front of me. So reflecting is a big part of yoga, actually. People think that yoga is just about moving on your mat and about breathing and meditation, but it's actually about bringing a practice of, I suppose, self-reflection and looking at how we live throughout the whole of our lives, not just for the time that we might spend on our mats. So it might be sort of you're reflecting on how you develop a bit of mindfulness and that being the moment. It might be looking at how we improve our emotional well-being and just to gain a deeper understanding of ourselves. And it does have a word in the Sanskrit language. It's called Svadhyaya. And I've been working hard on trying to pronounce that this morning. So Svadhyaya. So that's that self-reflection, sort of our actions being a mirror and sort of looking at what we can learn about ourselves a little bit more deeply, trying to pierce through the surface of what's on the outside and get inwards. And I think on the mat, that can be do with sort of checking in with our body and how we feel in different poses, what it brings up to us. It can be paying attention to that self-talk and how that inner voice talks to us. And it can be noticing, what our breath is doing. And it can just really coming to the mat can really help us to come back to our true selves, sort of inquiring what we need in the moment. And that's what we've been trying to do with tuning into winter. I guess when we start to notice a little bit more about what's going on in the body, it helps us to perhaps notice those little niggles or that little bit of tiredness that sometimes we try to push through. We try, I'm going to ignore it and I'm going to carry on. I'm going to this party, or I need to go to this meeting, and I need to do this, when really we need to rest. And we don't really notice until we get hit with, a migraine or the flu, something that forces us to stop. So that self-reflection is trying to really tune into the body a little bit earlier. So come to a comfortable place. So that can be lying down, could be seated like me, or seated on the chair. I'm propped up on a cushion as well because it helps to tip my hips forwards. So we're going to check in with ourselves right now. So just trying to bring all your awareness right now into here. So we might start by noticing perhaps the sounds around us, sounds outside the room, and then maybe the sounds in the room. And then can you bring it all the way into the sounds within your body? Can you hear your breath? And then bringing our attention inwards into where our body is resting and noticing where our body is on the floor. Where can we feel the pressure, the floor below us? So just bringing ourselves right into this moment. And then we'll start to go in a little bit further. So checking in with our thoughts. Where are your thoughts this morning? Could you maybe categorize them, start to label them? Are you, planning? Are you ruminating? Are you making judgments? What's going on in the mind this morning? And then can we start to distance ourselves from those thoughts? So we worked, I think last week, on imagining that you're stood at the top of a hill and you're looking out at a blue sky, and there's some little fluffy clouds that are just gently passing by. You just stood there watching the clouds. Can you start to do that with your thoughts? Maybe put a thought onto a cloud and just watch it roll by. It's much easier said than done. But we're trying to separate ourselves from that thought process. Not getting involved in the busyness of the mind right now. But trying to come into where the body is lying. What's important right now. And then let's check in with the body. So taking a little scan through the body, from the head, working your way, just slowly all the way through the body. And you might notice areas where you're feeling a little bit of discomfort or tension. Again, we're just noticing, like we're making a little checklist of what's going on, but we're not judging it as good or bad or worse than it was yesterday. We're just noticing, we're just bringing our attention to what is actually here. So just become aware of the sensations in the body. And then we'll go in a little bit further and just check in with how we're feeling emotionally right now. How do we feel right now this morning? It'll be very linked to how our body feels and where our thoughts are. Again, we're just noticing. Not judging how we feel. We're not trying to push anything away. We're just sitting with what is here. And then we check in with the breath. Where is the breath right now? When we bring all our awareness to our breath, where can we feel it? Where can we feel the breath going in and the breath going out? Again, we're not trying to change it at the moment. We're just noticing it. Have you been rushing around to get here? And then try to bring an awareness to the whole of the body. The breath, the body, the mind, the whole of you, just lying here. Knowing that it's perfectly normal for the mind to flit off in a million different directions. But can you just bring your awareness back Bring your awareness back into the moment. We can already bring a little bit of self-reflection into this part of the class. If you think back to last week, maybe how we've checked in feels different this week than it did last week. Because we're constantly changing, we're bringing ourselves to the mat with a different set of circumstances every single time. So this check-in is really important to do. So we know then how to nourish our bodies, whether we need fast, quicker movements to shake up our energies, or whether we need to just rest. So with that in mind, I'll ask you, what movement do you need now? Try to go with the first thing that comes into mind, the first thing that feels like it needs to move. So for me, sat here, I feel like I need to move my hips. I get some tightness in my lower back, so I feel like I need to go from side to side. But that might be different for you, especially if you're lying down or on the chair. Ask yourself, what movement do I need now? I think sometimes people come to a yoga class and they're just following the instructor and trying to just copy what they're doing, and that's not really the purpose of a yoga class. The purpose of a yoga class is for you to self-reflect, for you to come inwards, for me to make suggestions, and for you to first ask, well, is that what my body needs, or do I need something else? I think that comes with confidence of going to classes, and it comes with practice of that checking in with the body, checking in with the breath, checking in with the thoughts and the emotions. So wherever you are now, we're all going to come up to a seated position, if that's okay. If you just want to stay lying down and just listen to the whole class, that's all right as well. But yeah, the suggestion that I'm making now is that we all come to a seated position, whether that's on the floor, and I've got my legs in a cross position, but you could take your legs out in front of you, or you could come to sit to a chair or on the sofa, whatever feels right for you. And we get wherever you find your seated position, we're just going to bring the hands one on top of each other. So hands on top of each other. And can we connect the thumbs? So the thumbs are connecting like a little triangle. And then we're going to rest them down at the waist, maybe on the lap if you sat down on a chair. So just resting the hands here. And can you bring your focus all the way into your thumbs? Into your thumbs touching. We're going to use a few different ways of self-reflection today in our class. One of them is going to be journaling. So we're just going to have a journal question at the beginning of the class and one at the end. So first of all, just want you to really focus on your hands, and I'm going to ask the question to you, and I want you to try and go with what comes up straight away without starting to turn the cogs and really think about it. You're sort of getting into that mindful state and just flowing with what comes up for you. So focus your attention onto the hands resting together, onto the thumbs touching. You've still got a busy mind, try to really bring your focus into the hands every time the mind flitters off. Now I've got some little questions from a game that I have. So here we go. Thinking about the past year, what are you most grateful for? So hopefully everybody's got their book and their pen, and just try and write down the first thing that comes in. What was the first thing that came up? And what does that mean for you? I'm going to join in. We're not going to spend too much time on this. This is a really good question to ask yourself most days. What am I grateful for today? Helping us to switch to a more positive mindset. But when I thought about this question, I put down something that's more related to me. So this year, I think I'm grateful for my strength. I'm grateful for my physical strength and my mental strength to keep going through adversity. But then with a couple of people in mind, I'm very grateful for the people around me that act as scaffolding when my strength is waning. So yeah, this might be a question that you start to ask yourself a little bit more often. So we can put your pen and paper down to the side. We shall come back to that at the end of the class. And I was just going to read this to add to that. So this is the Comfort Book by Matt Haig, and it's called The Candle. When things go dark, we can't see what we have. That doesn't mean we don't have those things. Those things remain right there in front of us. All we need is to light a candle or ignite some hope, and we can see that what we thought was lost was merely hidden. So I really resonate with that. Going through some dark times with depression and feeling like I'd lost all of myself. So it does feel like there's a candle or a light inside me that I've found myself again, and I'm still finding myself. But I thought those words were really great to bring to this class this morning. So let's get on with a little bit of movement. So we've been sat for a while, so we really need to get our joints going. So whether we're on the chair or sat on the floor, let's just take some rolls in the shoulders. So we can often, seated, we get into a habit of closing forwards. So try and roll them backwards to start with. So we're really opening the chest. We can do some forwards as well. Let's try and keep that length in the spine and just moving from the shoulder joints. And then let's squeeze the shoulders up towards the ears, and then take a breath out as you come back down, letting go. So just do that a few times, breathing in as you squeeze the shoulders up, and then let go. Let's do one more. And then let's get the neck moving. So again, asking all the time, what movement do I need right now? So I might make some suggestions of the way that you move your neck, but for you, you might need to do something different. Or maybe you've got some issues going on in the neck and you need to make the movement a little bit smaller. I'm just going side to side, and I'm dropping my head to my chest. I'm bringing my head up and back down. And then taking some circles, going in one direction and the other direction. And then let's move into the hips. So let's take some circles on the hips. So go in one direction and in the other direction. And then let's take a pause and ask again, what movement do I need right now? So what other things do you need to move? I feel like I need to shake out my hands. I need to uncross my legs and give them a little bit of a jiggle out. Take a little bit more movement. So I'll demonstrate this on the floor and then I'll go up to the chair as well. So let's have the feet flat on the floor, and then we can either have the legs a little bit wider and sort of hook the elbows around the knees and take the head forwards, or we could have the feet closer together and the head forwards here. We'll see whatever feels right for you. And then from there, we're going to open up. So we're going to take the legs out long and then open up the chest. So we're coming into sort of a bit of a salute the sun, a little bit of a back bend opening. So closing the body, rounding, and then opening the body. So just see if you can go through that a few times. If you're on the floor, and I'll demonstrate on the chair. So on the chair, I would keep the legs still, keep the feet flat on the floor, and just forward fold, sliding the hands down the legs, rounding the spine, and then coming back up. I'd open the arms here, lifting the head a little bit, so you're really trying to open in the chest. So we're just trying to get some movement going in the spine. So folding forwards and coming back up. So we're either doing this on the chair or down on the floor. And then let's all end with that forward fold and hold it a little bit longer. So we could, on the chair, we could be resting our head into our hands, or we could be coming all the way forwards here. If you're on the floor, then you're in that curled position. So you're really rounding the spine. This can be quite a comforting place to be, feeling like you're secure, cozying up, curling all the body together. And then let's open up again. So if you're on the floor, take the hands behind you this time. So take the hands behind you, take the legs out long, and really shine the chest up towards the ceiling. Really pushing the chest forward, pushing through the hands, shining the chest up. And then just demonstrate on the floor again. So once you've done that, then you could just windscreen wiper the legs from one side to the other. So on the chair, I would still keep the feet flat on the floor, don't take the legs out long, and probably see if you can grab the back of the chair and then stretch the chest up here. That feels too much, you could be holding onto the side of the chair. You're really trying to draw the shoulders backwards and lifting here. And then when we come to that twist, let's twist the top half of the body. Instead of moving the legs, let's twist the top half of the body from one side to the other. And then we're going to take a similar movement on all fours. So if you're on the floor, let's come into cat pose. of up and down. I'll demonstrate on the chair first. So it's very similar really, but we're going to make it a little bit bigger. So on the chair, let's use the arms a bit more, like we're gathering everything in that cat pose, coming forwards. And then let's stretch back with the arms out. What I like to call cactus cat and diving cat. So you're rounding forwards and then coming back. And if you want to take a little bit of a rest, you could come into resting the head into the hands. So on the floor, I think quite a few of us are familiar with that cat movement, and we did do it in one of the previous weeks. So thinking about how you're positioned on the floor in that tabletop position, pulling in at the center of the body. Let's come into that happy cat. So dropping the belly, lifting the tail, lifting the head just slightly. So we've got an extension in the spine, and then rounding, tucking the tail under, pushing through the arms. We come into that angry cat. So and you're just going between the two. And all the time we're going through these movements, we could be asking, what do I need now? Or how does this feel in my body? And then on the floor, we'll add on to that as well. So we've taken that happy cat, then coming up into that angry cat. And then we can push back, dropping the bottom towards the heels into a little bit of a child's pose. But we're just flowing through it. So we come into that happy cat, angry cat, and then pushing back into child. And we're doing a similar thing on the chair. So we've got that opening up, happy cactus cat, rounding, bringing the arms forwards, and then coming to rest in that child's pose. So resting the head into the hands, taking those 3 movements. And maybe you want to take a pause in one of those poses. And we start to really tune in. We can say, oh yeah, I'd quite like to stay here for a little bit, or I'd really like to extend through my spine and stay in this angry cat for a little moment. Or maybe you need to have a little bit of a waggle from side to side, trying to find what feels right for you. And then let's come to a neutral position. So on the chair, we're just sat with the spine lifted, feet planted on the floor. On the floor, we're in that tabletop position, and we're going to come up to standing. So you can do this any way that you want, or you could do what I'm going to do and take one leg forward, and I'm going to get a little bit of a sway going. So it depends how your knees are, whether you want to do this. So you're getting a little bit of momentum to then push yourself up to standing, or just come up anyway that feels right. So we've done a little bit of standing section of the class. If you want to stay seated at the chair, then that's okay too. So we're going to do a little bit of letting go. So I think this is a good time to think about letting go. It can be a busy time of year for us, and I think we sometimes put a lot of expectations on ourselves, that we have to do certain things, or I need to go to this event, or I need to visit this person, and I need to send all these Christmas cards. So can we think about letting go of some of that? What do we need to do to serve us, to help us feel like we're tuning into winter? to help us feel like we can enjoy this time of year. So we're going to let go by shaking. So really trying to shake everything out. So really loose. So if you know that you're shaking now and you're like this, it suggests that you're holding quite a lot of tension in the body, which could be related perhaps to some sort of stress that you've got going on at the moment. So really trying to loosen everything off, shake out. Can be good as well if your house is cold. Really get the knees going, shaking the knees. Really get the arms going, maybe take the arms up high and really let them go. So we can be doing this on the chair as well. We could be tapping through the feet on the chair, having a little bit of a wobble from side to side on the bottom, really letting everything go. And then just find a bit of stillness, whether you stood up or sat down. Check in again, bit of reflection. What has that done for the body? What has that done for the mind? What has that done for the breath? And maybe just bringing into mind one thing that perhaps you need to let go of at this time of year. Whether it's expectations of yourself or others. What do you need to let go of? Let go of busyness. And we're going to try and brush it off. So whatever it is that we need to let go of, we're going to brush it off. You can just wipe it off. So brushing down the arms, brush down the centre of the body. Just letting it go, getting rid of it all, brushing it off. Down the legs, the backs of the legs, the fronts of the legs, the tops of the feet. You're just brushing everything off that you just need to let go of. Good for a bit of a skin exfoliation as well. And maybe you could get in the back as well, brush down the back, letting it all go. Find any last places, maybe to do your head as well. Brush your head, brush your face, brush off the hair. Any last places where you feel like you just need to brush off and just let go. Cleaning everything up. And then again, find a little bit of stillness. Notice how you feel now. And then we're going to gather it all in. So gather, like you gather it, like you're wrapping a parcel, I suppose. You're gathering everything in that you don't need, and then you're going to let go, lifting it up. But we're going to make it like a shh sound. So you just like gather it all in, and then with the out breath, shh, let go. So breathing, gather it all in, and then shh, let go. And let's try one more. Breathing, gather it all in, and shh, let go. And maybe just stay there for a moment with the hands open, the chest open. So landing here. This is me. This is what I need. Getting rid of some of those layers of expectation. And then bringing the hands back down. Find that mountain posture. So really think now about pressing the feet into the floor, having that little tiny bend in the knees, pulling up tall through the spine, shoulders back and down, standing tall like a mountain. Knowing that you can weather any storm. That true self, that candle that's burning right inside of you, your true self, it can weather any storm. It's always there. You just have to take off some of those layers to find it. We're going to do a couple of other standing poses, which again I'll demonstrate on the chair too. So we're going to go into warrior two. So warriors are quite grounding poses because we're pressing down through the feet and we're really strong in the legs. So it sort of gives you a strong grounding, I guess, to say no sometimes. So what we're going to do is to go into a lunge. So we've got our front leg. It's difficult if you're not on a mat, but it'd be shit. Mine's facing you're turning your foot out, I suppose, turning your foot out 90 degrees. And then you've got your back foot still facing forwards, but they're in line. So the feet are in line and your body is facing forward still. And then we take the arms out and we try and keep those shoulders down. So notice if you do this, try and drop the shoulders. And then we take the head and we look out over that middle finger. So this is warrior two. So you're looking towards the future. What do I need now? And we're going to work again on that letting go by shooting the arrow. So we're going to bring that back hand towards the front. Imagine you're pulling the bow back and then you're going to let that arrow go. So open up. Sometimes I do say, perhaps imagine that you're shooting the thing that you need to let go of. Hopefully it's not a person. So bringing that arm round, pulling the bow back and letting go. Let's see if we can do that 3 times. So on the chair, what I would suggest is that you just take the feet as wide as we can. So taking the feet as wide as we can and pressing them into the floor. And still take the arms up. We can take the head in one direction and then we bring the back arm to the front. We pull our bow back and we let that arrow go and come back. So coming back to center, we've done one side, have a little bit of a wriggle, have a little bit of a shake out through the legs, and then come to the other side. So on the chair, we're keeping the feet central, and we're just pressing the feet into the floor, pulling in at the center of the body, shoulders back and down, and then take the head towards that middle finger, looking out towards your future. And then taking that arm round, pulling your bow back and let that arrow go. I'm trying to do that 3 times on each side. Coming round, pulling the bow back and let it go. Do one more and let go. And bringing the arms back down, bringing the feet back together, whether we're sat or standing. I know I keep saying it, but check in with how we're doing right now. Taking a pause. We don't pause enough in everyday life. And I know how difficult, when I first started practicing yoga, how difficult I found this in classes to pause and be still. But I've learned to love it actually. I much prefer doing a very slow, gentle class than a very busy, fast when we're moving all the time. We're going to do one more pose standing. So we can't have a set of yoga classes without a tree pose, without a balance. It can teach us so much about ourselves. So I will demonstrate standing up, but it is possible to do this seated as well. So we have to really think about that mountain posture, about pressing through the feet. We need our standing leg. So my standing leg to start with is going to be my right leg. That slight bend in the knee, but I'm really pressing that right foot through the floor. And then I take my left heel off the floor and I turn the hip out. And I might just bring my big toe right into the right foot, my standing foot. I think about my hip, so we don't want to do this and be really dropping out of this hip, so we want to be really pulling in at the centre of the body and trying to keep the hips level. And then maybe I want to lift it today. So this is about that self-reflection. Do I need to push myself today to lift that leg? Or today, am I better stood here and really thinking about getting those foundations right, really pulling in at the centre of the body? Where is my balance today? And it's a great one for checking in on that self-talk. What am I saying to myself if I'm wobbling? You know, am I telling myself off for not having good balance? Or can I stay with a positive mindset, telling myself, I am balanced. This is enough for today. This takes practice. So just having a go at that wherever you want your tree to be. You can have arms as well. So if you're stood up, swap to the other side. If we're sat down, we could just work on opening the hip. So we could just leave the foot planted on the floor and then be up on the toes on the leg that we would stand and opening the hip here, because as well as it being about a balanced tree pose, it is about opening the hips as well. Or maybe we want to lift the leg, and if we're going to lift the leg, I would suggest bringing it back to the front and really working on being strong. So you're not just lifting it and the top half of the body slumping forward and we're just lifting the leg. We're thinking about being really strong here, standing tall. We're thinking about pressing down into that opposite foot as we lift one of the legs. So have a go on both sides, whether you're stood or seated. I suppose the other option as well is to be next to your chair. So if you think, oh, I could have a go at standing up, but I want a little bit of support, then come in next to your chair and see where we can lift the leg there. So always thinking about pulling in at the centre of the body and pressing down into that standing foot, being strong here. And I guess the point of doing this today is to say it's okay to wobble. It's okay to be off balance. That the trick is that we notice it. We notice it, we stop, and we do something about it without telling ourselves off, without judging ourselves for not being good enough. That we just accept what's here today. My balance is different every time I come onto my mat. So just being okay with the wobble. And then wherever you are now, just having a last little shake out. And then we're going to take a little forward fold. So if you're stood up, take the feet wider and fold forward. Keep the knees soft and just fold forward. Let the head be heavy. Let everything be heavy here. And you could do the same on the chair as well. You could have the legs wider and let the hands dangle forward, the arms dangle. Or maybe you still want that little bit of support for the head. And then wherever you are, slowly, slowly roll all the way back up. And then if everyone comes back to a comfortable seat. So let's grab our journals again. We go with our closing question before we have a little bit of relaxation time. So looking at the year ahead, let's not wait till January. Let's think about what we want for the year ahead. So I'm going to ask you, on what do you want to devote more time to? So in the year ahead, on what do you want to devote more time to? And again, try and go with the first thing that comes up. So you could carry on with this at the after this session, maybe write a little bit more, perhaps really get some firmer plans in place of, well, how am I going to make this happen? For me, I want to learn, I do want to delve a little bit more into yoga and yoga philosophy. But I'm going to start with a course on breathing. So I think that's going to be really helpful for me. And I definitely want to devote more time to being artistic and creative, but without a goal. So without it being because it's for work, or I'm trying to create a piece of artwork that's good enough to go on the wall. I'm just going to be artistic and creative, just with a bit of mindfulness in the moment. You could pause the video if you're watching this on YouTube and maybe spend a little bit more time on this. But if you're watching live, then let's just pop our books back down. And let's come to lying down. So we could again still be on the chair if that's more comfortable, or we could be in a comfortable lying position. You could use all your cushions and your supports, so you've got a little bit of a slope to be able to rest. If you're sat on your settee, you could maybe use your cushions and supports to help you rest there. And again, what do you need now? So take any movements that you feel like you need to be able to rest. So for me, I normally take my legs from side to side. I sometimes take my legs up in the air, give them a right good shake out. And then I can find a place that feels comfortable to rest. So we're going to end our practice with a real focus on the breath, leading into a little bit of rest, or shavasana is what we'd call it in yoga. So now you've found your place to rest, whether that's on the floor or on the chair. Can you bring your attention all the way into your belly? We've been working on that belly breath. So can you feel the breath already in your belly? We're just checking in with what's the breath doing right now? Where can we feel it? And then can we start to bring some conscious awareness to our breathing? So breathing in through the nose, trying to expand that belly on the in-breath. So you might choose to place your hands onto your belly. You can feel it. So that in-breath, we're breathing in, belly expanding on the in-breath. And then as we breathe out, we let that breath go. The belly button starts to sink towards the spine on the out breath as we squeeze all that air out. Remember that if this is a new practice for you, go steady, bit of self-reflection. Look what's going on. Notice any of that negative self-talk. Just try to be really present with the breath. We're going to see if we can aim for breathing in for a count of 4 and then breathing out for a count of 6. So just try this. So counting, this is a speed of seconds, breathing in, 2, 3, 4. Breathing out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Try again. Breathing in. 2, 3, 4. Breathing out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then just take a normal breath. And let's reflect. Did that feel comfortable? Did it feel manageable? So this is where you need to start tuning in to yourself. If we've been practicing belly breathing for a long time, then we can probably manage that breathing in for 4 and breathing out for 6. But if we're new to this, then that might feel quite tricky. Might feel like you're gasping for breath. So take the counts down. So this is about you listening in. All we're aiming for is to try and make that out breath a little bit longer than the in breath. So we could breathe in for 3 and just breathe out for 4. But we're just slowly working on it until we get used to this breath. And then we can start to think about expanding it. So I just want you to spend a couple of minutes working on finding a breath that feels right for you. I'm going to come up to seated, but you stay lying down or just stay on the chair and just have a few moments, just you tuning into your breath. Remember that if the mind starts to wander off somewhere else, bring it back to the breath. I'm trying to expand into the belly on the in-breath and trying to lengthen on the out-breath. And then just come back to a breath that feels natural for you now. We'll take this last minute of the class just in total rest. Letting the floor or the chair support your body. Just being really present with where you are right now. This is your time to nourish you. Don't let the mind flick you off somewhere else. Just really enjoy this moment. Moment where there's nothing to do, nowhere to be, no expectations. Just you and your breath. I'll finish with this question. What do you need now? What do you need now? Maybe you need to rest here for another 10-15 minutes or maybe even an hour. What do you need now? Maybe if it's not possible to do that, If you've got other responsibilities to take care of, how could you just bring in a tiny little bit of it? Could you take a pause? Could you just stand with a hot, warm drink at the window, just looking out at nature? So that's the key to tuning in, is to take the pause and ask, what do I need now? So just start to get some movement into your hands and into your feet, whether you're at the chair or if you're laid down. Remember to tune into your body. What other movement would feel supportive now? You're laid down, you might want to squeeze in and pull your legs in and rock, or you might want to stretch out. The same on the chair, you might need to wriggle from side to side, you might need to move the neck. But slowly starting to get some movement. And if you're laid down, can you roll onto one side? Take a pause before bringing yourself up to a seated position. We'll finish as always with our little energy rub. So focusing your attention again on the hands, on the sound of the hands, on the touch of the hands, the heat that we're creating. And then take that energy into the eyes. If you haven't opened the eyes, flicker them open behind the hands. Take a big deep breath in and a breath out. Bring our hands down to heart center. And I'm going to finish with these words by John Steinbeck. What good is the warmth of summer without the cold of winter to give its sweetness? So thank you for joining me for this series of Tuning into Winter. Namaste.